Okay. So hopefully you guys are following along with your discos open. It's always helpful to just do things as we go. If you are, just make sure you're on the latest version of Disco. It should look like my Disco does now. If you have the older version, you can go into your settings in the top right corner, and under app settings, it does not look the same as this, but it should say switch to version 2. Do that now if you have not done that. I want to start off the bat with some like general housekeeping functions in here that a lot of people don't know exist. And anytime I tell people about this, they end up like losing their minds at how such a simple thing can change your whole workflow in Disco. And the first thing is when you first log into your Disco, most of the time the playlists are going to be pretty large and the title will cut off. As you can see in my Disco, I have a very like a larger column here so I can see the entire title. So for you to change that on your end, you can go into your settings in the top right corner, go into settings and account, select app settings, and then change the Explorer column width to large. Yours is probably set to default. So if you just change that to large and then update your settings, that will make it a lot wider. The other option is to change the Explorer column density to compact, which I quite like just so I can view more of my playlists. So if I pop here to browse, you can see if you're doing it on your end, it should expand. You can also just zoom in and out of your browser if you want to see more playlists and columns from there. The other thing that you can do is when you hover over the metadata on a track, you'll notice I have formats, BPM, and year. You can change that to be whatever metadata fields are important for you to view quickly. Now you can also do that when you open up a track, and you'll notice here I have comments, BPM, explicit, and one stop, which are custom fields that I will show you in a moment. But these can be changed to whatever you want as well. So to do that, you'll go into your settings again, and we'll go into app settings. And then these two fields here, choose the information to display on your track cover. So if genre is important to you or comments, you can do that. And then here is where you would choose the metadata fields on the Explorer, so that right-hand column.
Can I just note that you can
Yes.
remove and add back. So you can remove them all and then add them back in the order you'd like them to actually appear on the hub.
Yep. Another thing you can do when you are sending a playlist page to someone, you can put your contact details at the bottom, which is just another way for people to know who to contact for licensing, and it looks quite nice. So again, let's go back to our settings, and it's just in profile and account here, contact details, put your name, company name, email, phone number, and just make sure this tick box is selected to include the details on your public Disco pages. And we're gonna get into building a playlist, and I'll highlight where that is visible on playlist pages in a moment. So let's talk about searching in Disco. The search is really designed to work as fast as you're thinking, and it is as close to Google as we could possibly get. So the beauty of it is just you start typing whatever parameters and tags, artist, BPM you need in the search here. So if I need swagger rock and it needs to be gritty and I need an indie act, I can just type those in. I do not need commas. You can just stream of consciousness, go. If I need a specific lyric, I can put, or like an artist, let's say, I can put that in quotes. So maybe I need the lyric to be strong. Put that in quotes, This narrows my search significantly. So now I know I have 2 songs I can pitch. Drag it over to the right to start creating a playlist. The other thing I can do here is what we call a Boolean search. I mean, we don't really call that, everyone does, but there's a Boolean search capability in DISCO. And what that is it allows you to omit certain keywords from your search. So let's say I wanted to ensure that there weren't any female vocals that would come up in my search. I would just simply hit minus female. So now only male vox will appear. This is on brief, add it over to my playlist. Now, there are loads of advanced filtering options you can do as well, which you can just grab from the arrow here. You can filter by a specific album, artist, BPM. You can even do a range. Let me turn my D&D off, sorry y'all. I can do a search by a specific internal comment that I've left, or a composer, specific lyrics, release year. Can also do a range here. And then these are all custom fields. Again, I will get to in a moment, but they're all easily searchable and you can sort by them. You can also search by playlist tags, by our new track tags, which I can just hover over any of these categories and do a search for blues. Time period. So you can search by when a playlist was created or when new music was uploaded to your DISCO. If you want to know which tracks have been uploaded to your DISCO this month, let me clear this so we can see it. Let's say this month, and then I'll just toggle over to tracks, show results. I've only added 1 song, great. Now, if you want to see what playlists were created this month, you could just toggle over to the playlist view or albums. You can also search by specific groups, and by groups we mean channels, which are like your folder structure filing system, or your inboxes. And again, inboxes are your way to receive music. Now, by default, if any music is living in your inbox, it's not going to appear, it's not going to be indexed and appear in search unless you go into the group and search by your A&R inbox. There is a setting on our end if you wanted to make anything in your inboxes by default indexed and searchable. You can just reach out to us and we can flip that on. If not, you'll just need to go into the groups to search.
Hey, Katrina, we had a question about getting sort of putting one stop in the metadata. And so there's just a couple of ways to do that. One is, if you use custom fields, you can have a one-stop checkbox. B, you can just literally write the words one stop. Often that's in the grouping field, which, you know, people talk about their clearance info there, or the comments field of the metadata. But also the native tags, which we haven't really touched on yet.
I was just about to get into that, so
yeah,
good timing.
So why don't you jump into that, Katrina, and show them the types?
Yep. Yep. So this is another way you can search is by the native tags here. So why don't I go through this and then let me show you where you can put one stop. So all of these tags here, first of all the tags in this DISCO have been tagged by our AI. If you don't have auto tagging on your plan, which we'll get to it a little later, these are all manually added now. So to add those, there's a tag icon here and a tag icon up here. And I can just select that. And we've already loaded you up with the main categories that are used and most commonly used tags in sync. These have been crowdsourced for music supervisors and sync teams. So they're what you're used to using every day, like Swagger. So I can just go in here if I need to add like moody as a mood and feel, add it. And then I can also just search. I'm like, this is dance. And
You
this
removed.
type, what?
You removed Moody, but it was already on.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine.
So this is where you can also add one stop and add it as a type. There it is. Now, if there are tags that you want to add to this that we don't have, you can go up to the settings wheel here and go into add tags. Maybe there isn't one for, I don't know.
If you choose a category
Metal.
first, usually helps you.
I don't think you have to. You just start typing it in and select the category. So now this is like in my library of tags.
Just a quick question
Under
about
settings under tags.
there's a question just about adding tag categories. We don't allow you to create new categories. You have to use OWLs, but you can add as many tags to those categories as you want.
Yep, good shout. One stop is not default, I believe, so you will need to add one stop as your own tag. But what's great about having this as a tag here is I can just select one stop to then see all of the other songs in my catalog that are one stop. Then it's also going to pull up with some other tags that are similarly tagged to other songs. So I can kind of go down the rabbit hole of searching here, where it's like, all right, I need pop. That's one stop. Then it's just narrowing it down more. And female vocals, which there's okay, one song. Great. So going back, well, actually, let me keep going on search real quick and finish this up, and then I'll go back to the one stop thing. Another way you can search in Disco is what we call the breadcrumb trail. So if I have a song open, I can scroll down here and it shows me that this song appears in 4 playlists. So this is great for me, just having a historical record of all of the playlists that I've created and my teammates have created. So you can glean other ideas, and as you know, especially in sync, a lot of the same themes are always bubbling up. So if you've already done the work of creating a playlist, why not just reference stuff you've already done? So from here, I can go in and check this Marlon Williams track out, see that I've put that in 70 playlists. Oh, we pitched it for a Target commercial. What else did we pitch for that? That could be on Brief for Current. So this just like goes down the breadcrumb trail and rabbit hole of other playlists. And then I'm just going to zoom out so you can kind of see, like, this is kind of a lot, but just show you the pathway here. And then if you want to get to the beginning of your search, there's 2 ways you can do it. One, just use your trackpad or your mouse to go back and forth, or use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go back and forth.
Can I just make a quick note on just the breadcrumb trail is really what Disco was built around in the very, very first instance, because we had a whole team of music supervisors working together, and before this, they were all on their own iTunes account, very separate, but they'd always collaborate, and we're going to go into this stuff. So the breadcrumb trail is amazing because you're going through everyone else's work on your team. So the search they did 5 years ago could be relevant again today. So it's sort of like this idea of banking ideas. There was one quick question just about the native tags that I think we should address. They don't travel between discos when you send, but there is a setting, which you might want to show Katrina, where you can have them write into the comments of the metadata. It's in business settings, and you have to be an admin of the account to actually see these settings at the bottom. But see, that's checked there, write native tags to comments metadata field on download. So that's when it's sent to another disco, like they save it to disco, or they just download the files. That's when they would be added to the comments field of the metadata.
And it will apply to, if you already have comments in the metadata on a track, it'll apply after what's already there. Did you say that already, by the way? I don't think
I
you
don't
did.
know.
Who knows?
Um,
Okay, so how's everyone feeling on search? Are there any other questions we should address before we move on to building a playlist?
there's, let's see, there's a few questions here. Is there an efficient way to batch tag manually? Probably building playlists of very similar things and then applying a lot of the same tags to them. You can do that by just editing all, or you can do it on a spreadsheet as well, where you add
Yep, so
info
if I'm
about.
in this playlist, oh, sorry. I
No,
was
no, you
going to
go.
talk about edit all. Just quickly, I'm in a playlist here. There's a menu at the top. I can select edit all. And then if I have the same contact details for my comments, I can just go in here and write that and it'll apply to all the tracks.
Interesting. Is there a way to?
While you're filtering through some questions, let me go back to the one-stop stuff. So here's a great example of where you can add one-stop in the grouping field. Also add it to the comments. And then custom fields. So this by default is not on your plan when you log into DISCO. But if you want this, just reach out to us and we can work with you on building out really any custom information that's really helpful for you to have on tracks. They can be tick boxes for one stop, or if it's like on hold for pitching at the moment, explicit lyrics, any fields that you want. Sounds like a la search options here, any lyrical themes, which are kind of now in native tags now. If you need to add a drop down for, let's say, the status of a license, we sent it, and then maybe I need to put a date range or a certain date for the terms or the expiry. You can put master catalog info, more robust publishing information. This is really like, we're down to customize this as much as possible with the fields you see here, but just reach out to us and we can make this happen. And then again, it's all indexed and searchable in your DISCO.
Real quick, Katrina, just one thing.
Yep.
About editing on spreadsheets. So you can ask support at any time to export your DISCO onto a CSV file. So it'll have all of the metadata that currently exists in your account. You can then fix and edit and add more information on that sheet. And then you just ask support to re-import it once you've finished. So you could do that each month just to make sure everything's clean and bulk fix your metadata.
Good call. Okay, well, if we're good on search, then let's move on to building a playlist and then sharing a playlist. So I have these tracks in like my shortlist area. As you can see, I have some instrumentals in here. So what would be helpful is if I was able to create like a subfolder in a playlist, or like a playlist in a playlist. And so you would use sections for that. So there's a menu here, add section. I'm going to do instrumentals. Now I can drag the section name wherever I want to create that subfolder. And then to rearrange the track order, it's all drag and drop. If I need to change the name of my section, I can do it straight from here. So maybe for this sake, let's go back to an option of having different budget tiers as sections. So we'll do on here my 5 to 10K options. You can also change the track order from the menu here, change track order, and then you can sort by artist, A to Z, track title alphabetically, date added to your DISCO, release year, etc. Some of these songs don't have, I noticed that they don't have any album artwork. I can also edit the metadata from within the playlist creator as well. You can edit it in the middle here. But that would just happen via the eye. So I've got this new playlist I'm going to send, title it, save it, and now there's lots of stuff we can do here. First, perhaps we want to add playlist tags. This is really great for reporting purposes, but also for discoverability. But what a lot of people use these for is to keep track of what they're pitching to certain clients. So maybe you want to create a tag for Netflix and just keep on hand everything you pitch to them. You can also put some keywords or descriptors from the brief that you're pitching in response to. And then playlist visibility. You can choose if your teammates will have visibility to this playlist or if you only want to keep it for yourself. You can add the playlist to a channel, which is how you're going to file it away. Since I'm going to say this is a pitch, yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry, just really fast. There's just a question about, is there a way to include a brief with a playlist so that as you're following the breadcrumb trail, you'll know exactly what the brief for the previous playlist was. So the best thing would be just to add some basic notes specific to that brief in the playlist tags. Some people actually copy entire briefs into the playlist tags, and it's just one mega tag, which I don't know what effect that has on search.
In search, but
yeah, but I'd just do like
it might look messy, but it should work.
Yeah, but just notice, like, we're going to show you later how to track people specifically, but adding an entire company, as Katrina has in a playlist tag, is also really helpful around that and connecting a brief to a company.
Okay, back to adding to channels. I don't remember if we covered this in the 101 training, but a pitch log as a channel is incredibly helpful. So you can keep, Tim's baby is making an appearance. I hear her.
Sorry.
No, I like it. She's the best. A pitch log is really great to just have a place where you're funneling all the pitches you're doing each month for multiple reasons. One, you can pull reports on it if that's something that your company does or is helpful for you. It also just gives you more transparency and maybe helps you identify some gaps. If you're like, oh, we haven't really been pitching to any trailer houses lately, maybe we need to nurture some of those relationships. So a good landing place to have, definitely add that to your channels. Otherwise, if this was like an artist specific, I could save it to my Beyonce, let's say, channel. Otherwise, it's going to save to browse. So you'll have it to search later on.
Sorry, a couple more things.
No, it's great.
One question was just about customizing the track order. You just drag and drop when you're building the playlist to put them in whatever order you like. You just drag them around. And also there are preset ordering options like title A to Z, artist A to Z, track numbers if it's an album. Those are all on the little menu to the right of save when you're on the playlist. So that's the track ordering options there. So hopefully that answers your question about customizing track order. And then there's a question about sorting sections independently from John. You can drag your sections around, but you can't have the same song in multiple sections in the same playlist. So one song can only ever be in one section, because when you try and add it again, it would just move the song to wherever you moved it. So that's just a couple of quick things.
Cool.
Back to you.
Okay. Client version. Tick this box if this is a playlist you're sending out to a client. Nothing changes about the playlist. It's just an internal flag for you, your teammates to know that has been delivered. This is also super, super helpful for pulling reports on. And reports, as exciting as those are, they will be covered in advanced training part 2. So if you want to do a deep dive into that, come to the next training. You can set your playlist to be streaming only if you do not want to enable downloads. Maybe you have unreleased music, kind of along the same lines of limiting certain access. We'll get to it in a moment, but you can also password protect and set links to expire on a certain time. And you can show the lyrics if it's in the metadata. This I have set up as a default to always have the lyrics visible on the playlist page. If you don't want to tick this box every time you're sending a playlist, just hit us up and we can make this a default for you as well. Message. So this is an area that appears at the top of the playlist page. You can highlight specific tracks that you want someone to make note of. You can essentially create EPKs out of Disco as well. So this could be a spot for an artist bio and some press information and Spotify links and social links. All of that can go here.
There was a question about, can you add a YouTube link to a playlist, I'm guessing? So you'd have to add it here as a link in the message. You can't just add it as a track within the playlist. You can upload videos though and photos in any kind of file and put it in your playlist, but you'd actually need the file.
Yep. Okay. Metadata we're not getting into, but I just want to throw this as a teaser that I think this is one of the most underrated features in Disco that's incredibly helpful, and we're going to cover it in advanced training part 2. Okay, formats. The way formats work in Disco is if you've uploaded a high res into Disco, whether that be a WAV or an AIF, we'll automatically make an MP3, which is great. So you have both options you can send a client. A note on the MP3s, the default is 160. If you want it to be 320, hit us up. We can make that happen. So what this area in the saved playlist is allowing you to do is, one, if you only want to send MP3s, that's where you would select this tick box, send only optimized formats. They will not get WAV or AIF. Now, if you select this tick box, include original formats in main playlist download, that means the default download will be the high res. It'll be the WAV or the AIF. If you don't have either of these ticked, then the default download will be MP3. But they still have the option to access the high res formats. This gets confusing. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions about it, let us know, but also show you what that looks like on the playlist page in a moment. Themes. This is where you can jazz up your playlist, customize it, make it personalized. You can just upload any image you want. I'm going to use this promo photo because I like it. But if you wanted to create a new theme, just drag and drop here. So my playlist is being saved in these channels. I have it ticked as a client version. I'm going to have the lyrics visible. I added a message. It's ready to share. So I hit save playlist. And then we covered this in the 101 training, but this is the kind of main link that you would share. You can copy it to your clipboard by just selecting these squares here and just pasting it somewhere. And then to preview it is this arrow here. So here's our playlist page with our various sections, and I can just select those and drop down. There's a waveform in the middle people can jump through. This is not default. I have this set up on my demo account because some people do want to have the metadata hover available on their playlist pages. If this is you, just let us know. We can make this happen as well. Lyrics here. And then these better not all be, okay, here we go. So default download is MP3, but if I drop down here, I'm able to choose if I want the AIF or the WAV. And then if I download, so download everything will be all MP3s, but your recipients can also go into more formats and options. And then they can choose here which ones they want from each. So I want the WAV from this, the MP3 from this, the AIF from this, and download. Or hit save to Disco, which means no one has to download everything. Music just goes into your library.
Quick,
So down,
sorry, really fast, just to
nope.
add. Someone asked if I want to send my playlist as streaming only to some people and downloadable to others. That isn't possible. You'd make two playlists, one streaming only, one downloadable. You just have to copy it. And someone asked, are we going to cover how to track individual people's streams and access? We are going to cover that.
Oh yeah, that's coming next.
Someone also asked about, can songs comments be changed on a playlist by playlist basis? No, they can't, but we're going to cover another thing about metadata on a playlist by playlist basis in our next webinar. So come back for more on that later.
Cool. And then just to highlight, at the beginning of the webinar, we talked about adding your contact details to the bottom of a playlist. It looks like this down here. Okay, let's get into the fun stuff, which is seeing who is listening to our music. What are they downloading? Did they open our playlist? So the way to get those stats, which mind you, you can still get stats if you just send this link, but it's not going to be specific to a client. You'll just get like very broad stats, like 50 downloads and 30 streams. But I want to know who of my clients are listening to what. So you go on to share this playlist. There's two options. One, you can email the playlist straight out of Disco. Just type in their email address, add a message, and send. The thing with this is you can't really customize the way the playlist looks. It's like our default template, but it's great because the track list is going to go with it, and you'll get the automatic stats on what Tim has listened to from this playlist. And I can put multiple emails in here, and then it's going to BCC all of them and automatically connect the playlist with their email so you get the stats. That's one way. The other thing you can do here is send to another Disco inbox. If I wanted to send this to level 2, I can just put their name in here and send them a message straight into their Disco inbox. They will receive an email notification that there's new music. You will receive an email notification that it was delivered. 9 times out of 10, you'll probably use assign a URL to a contact. Same thing, put in their email address, assign the URL, and then a unique link is going to be generated that's connected to Tim's email. And so this is the link I would send in an email to him responding to a thread that's already going. There it is. Grab this here, copy it to my clipboard, or I can copy it from down here. So where do we see the stats? There's 2 places. One, we can look on the playlist level. So I can go to my playlist here, go to this menu, click on stats, and then ta-da. These are all of the people that I've sent this playlist to. And then I can sort up here to see who streamed it the most, who downloaded the most tracks, etc. I can also hover over the numbers to see which songs they engaged with. So that's one way. The second way is anytime you assign URLs or send a playlist directly out of Disco, it's going to put those folks in this contacts database. Oops. So I can open up a contact here, add some basic information, email, company, phone, location. I can add tags. So this one I have is advertising in New York, their supervisor, and their VIP. This is great for when you're filtering lists for like a newsletter or a blast, which our email creator we're going to get into in the next training as well. I can also leave some notes. Dating my boss of X. Uh-oh. That, Tim, you definitely added that. Mailing lists, which again is for email creator, or you can send playlists to mailing lists as well, but we're going to get into that another date. This is my favorite part here, activity. So this shows me every playlist I've ever sent this contact with the stats here. Views, downloads by playlist, track downloads, or streams.
And if there were stats, you'd hover over those numbers to actually see which songs were streamed or downloaded. I have a quick question here that's worth answering to everybody.
Okay.
How do you copy a whole playlist? You want to show them?
To copy an entire playlist, you just grab it and drag it over to the playlist creator. That creates a copy. If you needed to edit an existing playlist, use the pencil icon, which will then drag it over to the playlist creator as well.
Just note that when you are copying it, it doesn't copy the sections over, and it doesn't copy the settings. So the themes and the message and all that stuff is not copied. That is something that we have a request in for. There was a question about getting AIF and WAVE versions of the same song. That's on the Plus plan. We need to do maybe a webinar about our plans, because we are switching to a whole new plan set, which are broken out by features. And so some of them have custom fields, the AIF WAVE converter, and things like that. So it might be easiest just to ask support for the breakdown of our new plan features. And maybe we can post that somewhere. But that's coming very soon.
Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, there is the option to convert a WAVE to an AIF and vice versa in DISCO already. Like Tim mentioned, if you're on the plan that has that option. But I just want to note with that, so this track here, I know I have a WAVE and an M4A, but I know that I have the AIF converter in here, but it's not going to show when I look at the formats available because we don't convert it until a download happens. So if you want to download the AIF, you can just go into download track and there it is. Same on the playlist side for the client. The AIF is there. We will take the metadata from the MP3 and apply it to the AIF as well automatically. A little digression there. Okay, let's go back into some share options. Copy URL. So this public playlist link is after you save a playlist and that link is generated. This is that link if you needed to grab it again. The internal playlist URL is if you're collaborating with a teammate, and if you send them this, it'll open the playlist in their DISCO, so it's easier for them to edit as opposed to sending them the playlist page, which doesn't do them much good. And then direct download, self-explanatory there. You can copy the track list either by just highlighting everything, copying, or just copy the track list here to your clipboard and then paste that wherever you wish. You can embed a playlist on your website, blog, etc. You can just disable downloads if you want, and you can customize this a little bit. If you are a whiz at HTML, you can do loads of stuff with this as well. Security, I mentioned this earlier, where you can password protect a link or set a link to expire on a certain date. Just remember to send the password to your recipient. We won't automatically do that for you.
Can I jump in real fast?
Please.
So there's a question about, does the sound file we upload to DISCO need to have metadata already in it? Does that metadata copy into DISCO? Would you recommend uploading files without metadata than using DISCO to add everything? You can do literally any of the above. If it's an MP3 or an AIF and it has metadata on it, DISCO reads that metadata and you can edit it in DISCO. If you upload a WAVE, it won't have any metadata. DISCO will make an MP3 and you can then add metadata to that MP3 in DISCO. So metadata transfers in and out of DISCO and can be edited there. There's quite a few questions about email lists, group email lists. We're covering that in the next webinar, but you can see on the left in the tools that there is a mailing lists area where you can upload mailing lists, but we will do that in the next webinar.
Yep. So let's talk about The best ways to collaborate in Disco. I feel like this gets asked constantly. So Tim, why don't you kind of talk about that a little bit if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. So I touched on that slightly earlier on, that the origins of Disco were for the purpose of collaborating as a team. Oh, and just on that note, someone asked about whether team members should use the same login or have their own logins. Absolutely, they should have their own login. It's way better for collaboration. It's definitely important for security. And you can invite people at any time in the top right corner under the little avatar. Just says invite team. They get an email, they create their login, and you all have access. Then you can see on this My Team tab in settings, those are the people on your team. You can, if you're an admin, you can make other people admins. And actually, while you're all here, please make sure that someone important at your company, like the owner or a high up manager, is an admin on this, because sometimes employees create the Disco account and they're the admin, and then they leave the company, and then we have to go through this whole process to verify the owner of the actual company. So anyway, that's just a little aside. Collaboration. You have a team. The best way to collaborate is that you make your own playlists. And see here where Katrina is, there's 3 BMW playlists. I like using the term WIP. WIP 1 for the work in progress 1, WIP 2 for the second round, or you can just say round 1, round 2. So, your team has created these playlists, then someone clicks on them and goes through to choose the best songs, or either choose the best songs or just take all of them and make one master list, which is what Katrina's doing. Sometimes not every song is perfect, but just because not every song is perfect in that playlist, it doesn't mean that that song isn't going to be great for another search in the future. And that is why it's better to have each person create their own playlist, because they spent time doing it. And that time should be kept and reused again in the future. Whereas if you all just always, sorry, yeah, go.
No, I was just going to say, the reason we suggest this is because you can't live collaborate on playlists. It will override what's already there. So this is really the best way to do it until we build an easier way to collaborate on the fly in Disco.
Yeah, that's definitely a large part of it. And also the fact that if everyone put together 10 songs each, and that was one big playlist, and then you just edited it and deleted 20 songs off of it. Sorry, instead of the word delete, I'll use the word remove. Don't delete the songs from playlists, because they'll delete from everywhere in Disco. Yeah, so you've removed 20 songs that someone spent time thinking was good, and that is worth retaining for the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
So keep that in mind. So now that you've created your final list, BMW, this is when we're going to go and hit that client version. This is really the use for it, is to tell everyone on your team, this was the final version of the search that has gone off to the client. And those other ones, which are WIPs, are just creative ideas. That is probably the best. Katrina, are we going into channels?
No, not today, but if someone has a quick question about it, we can talk about it.
There was just one really fast question about the difference between adding songs and playlists to channels. The most you can add songs and playlists to channels. That is totally fine. The main reason we recommend keeping songs in playlists is because of the breadcrumb trail. If Katrina clicks on one of these playlists and opens it up, and then clicks on a song, she can see all the playlists that song is in when it eventually loads.
Not the base.
It's in 10,000.
That one's in we always use that example. Here we go.
So this track, The Fire of Love by Marlon Williams, is in 71 playlists. If it was in 71 channels or 71 folders inside of channels, we would have no idea because it's just not linked up in that way. So it's just best to put songs in playlists because playlists are folders. They are the most basic folder in Disco, and that's the first point of organization. And then the playlist full of tracks is organized into channels. That being said, you can put tracks in channels and channel folders if you want. Really quickly on that note, some people start off and they actually build what they think is a playlist as a channel, and then they share that, because you can share channels and the folders within channels, but it doesn't have themes, it isn't tracked, it's uglier. So playlists are what you want to share with people when you are pitching. That is the primary purpose of a playlist, other than organizing.
And if
no,
the point of sharing a channel is so you can send the bulk of your catalog to someone, you can just wait a couple more weeks, because we are building client libraries, which would allow supervisors, directors, creative teams to search through your own Disco library with these specific tags that we have, and create their own playlists, save to Disco. You can get stats on all of that as well. So you can look forward to that very soon. I want to make sure we have enough time to talk to Jonathan, and we're already a little bit past it. So I think I'll save a couple things I wanted to talk about today and just move it to the part 2 training, which is really quickly, it's just about how to replace audio, merge tracks, deleting playlists versus tracks. I think we can cover that in the next training. I did want to talk about auto tags a little more, but just quickly, we've touched on how these native tags work, and I mentioned that everything in this Disco has been tagged by our AI. So we trained it to listen to music and detect genre, vocals, instrument, mood and feel, tempo. And again, they're all commonly used tags in sync. And the cool thing about the tags as well is you can add to them. If I needed to add bass to this, that's going to send a message back to the AI to learn. I mean, bass is kind of a weak example, but if it's a didgeridoo or something, it'll send a note back to the AI to learn that sound, and then it's going to re-tag not just your Disco library, but this is from all Disco libraries, folks adding new tags, and then just re-listens and tags where it sees fit. So it's not static, it's ever evolving. The other great part about this that's coming very soon is a reference search. So if a supervisor sends you a link that they want something that's like Dua Lipa, let's say, you can grab that reference song from YouTube or SoundCloud, just put that link straight into the search bar up top. We tag that song, and then we pull through all the similarly tagged tracks in your library and bubble up those selects for you. So your turnaround time with that is just really incredible, super fast. So if anyone's interested in auto tags, please reach out to us. We can run a little sample set or give you our demo account to see the caliber tags for yourself. But yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I just want to make one real fast point just about, so do team members have to have a Disco account, or can I invite members to share? Basically, there's one Disco account, which is your URL, and you invite team members all to that. So we refer to account as the entire Disco, and a login or a user as a team person that joins that. If they had a totally separate Disco, the interaction would be very, very different. Anyway, let's get Jonathan up on here.
Let's get to Jonathan. Okay.
Where are you, Jonathan?
Hi.
Hi, Jonathan.
Here I am.
Hiding in the background.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm interested in auto tags too, by the way.
Okay, great. We got you.
I just want to make sure I sign up for that.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, you're a music supervisor in New York. You primarily work on advertising campaigns, but have done some more documentaries and films lately. Can you just share a little bit about what you're working on and kind of how work is as a supervisor these days?
Yeah, definitely, and thanks for having me. I am fortunate that I'm working and that I've sort of set myself up in a way that I know how to, even when I'm not working with clients, I know how to sort of make effective use of my time. So there's a lot of time within the day where it's not directly working on like a creative search or a license deal, that, preparing myself for future projects or business development sort of efforts, or just honestly like going out into the world, like, or on the web and finding creative inspiration and thinking about it and just kind of just expanding the way I think and the way I, prepare for projects. So I am fortunate that I am working on a documentary project right now that I know there's a lot of production constraints right now. Fortunately for this one, it's a lot of archival materials are going to be utilized because it's a retrospective about a prominent sort of founder of a company about that sells snowboards. So yeah, that's as much as I can sort of say at this moment. But no,
okay.
It's a cool project, and that's certainly keeping me busy. And then I did recently get my first COVID-19 response ad. So I've been kind of assessing what's happening within the advertising industry, because a lot of my contacts and my network is largely within that sort of commercial production world. And there's not as much work. I'll just be completely honest. That's really the feedback that I'm getting. But, I think that's going to sort of shift, and there's going to be a little bit more of a ramp up now that we're sort of kind of getting sort of settled in a little bit. It took some time for some of these big companies and corporations to sort of shift their strategy, move their offices home. And I think that they're now working more closely with their agencies, trying to get answers to questions they have about how to sort of position themselves in the market. And, commercials are starting to be made or have been made, and more are being made. And I think music definitely has a place in this new sort of market for commercial production. I think, music is one of those things that is almost certain. A pre-existing recording exists already, so kind of what you're getting, and music is going to add a lot to low production value commercial projects. So I definitely don't shy away. Now's not the time to sort of like step back. It's the time to sort of step in, and make yourself sort of essential. Position yourself as best as you can with your music and with your artist, and think about what the needs are of the advertising industry or the film industry. Whatever is relatable to you in this moment is also going to be relatable to an advertiser. So think about those types of themes and those songs that sort of speak to what we're all kind of going through.
Yeah. So what are some of those like licensing trends, or like trends, and I feel weird saying trends, but like, what is the music everybody wants and are asking for right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what everybody...
Besides I guess it's the obvious.
I think some of it, yeah, I think it's obvious. I mean, I just went through a couple rounds of searching, and there were some songs that I don't think everything has to be so overly emotional. Like, I think some people want to sort of convey joy, but in sort of like an honest way. Not, anything too sort of slick and sort of aspirational, like more just like, how can we find sort of simple pleasures in connecting with friends or in family on Zoom? A lot of productions are happening on FaceTime and in Zoom, and using technology that wasn't previously utilized. So, just kind of think about how you use those products, right? And, in all likelihood, you're going to see more and more projects, very sort of simply made, focused on how we're all kind of adapting to the situation. And, thinking about things differently.
Yeah, definitely. How do you think the music community is going to change from all of this? Like, I even read the other day that they're anticipating we won't be able to have any large gatherings, so like no concerts, no shows for a year and a half. Like, any insight on your end on how you think
Yeah.
that's gonna evolve?
I have been thinking a lot more about that, and also just now that I'm kind of going through the motions of like getting costs for tracks and licensing, also just understanding how that sort of path to an artist's approval is happening now is very different than before. Artists are at home, maybe a little bit more accessible than they were before. So people are working and hustling really quickly to turn around stuff on tight timelines. In terms of like the touring industry, I mean, it's sad what we're up against with this pandemic and how that is affecting touring and performing live. I mean, I haven't really spent too much time streaming the sort of at-home concerts, but it's something that I should sort of look a little bit more into, and because that might even sort of present opportunities for artists and connecting sort of partnerships between artists and brands. And we've been starting to see like companies like Verizon and Chipotle and make use of those partnerships. I think that there's going to be a lot of songwriting happening during this time. I think in a way it sort of slows people down. There's not that same push from the labels and to get out and tour and to promote albums. That I think that there'll be more time to write and more time to connect with fans through social media.
Yeah, I think so too. I've already seen a lot of my friends that are like collaborating more on songs and just like sending tracks back and forth, and it's going to be exciting to see what people create during this time.
I mean, think about it. Every artist, songwriter kind of finds different time to write, and it seems like now is a time when everyone is maybe thinking about writing, and it'll be cool just to, I mean, like a silver lining in all this is just to see all the sort of creative output that comes out of this.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting. Definitely. Actually, the way that people are redirecting all of their energy from the outward life, which is now not possible, and you just like can't just sit still and do nothing. So it comes out in all these different ways, and heaps of people I think are really getting creative. I think it's pretty exciting.
And it's probably important to note that there might be a lot more attention on film and television licensing, working with existing catalogs or writing to add to your catalog, and for artists or labels or companies that haven't been able to prioritize licensing, I think maybe now is a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Switching gears a little bit into more of your kind of workflow and preferences. Do you have any preferred ways in which people can reach out to you and send you music? And then like on the opposite end of that, are there certain ways that make it more challenging for you, and any ways to kindly let people know that produces more work for you?
Yeah, I would sort of just start off by saying it's not an easy question to answer, and like I'm sort of constantly sort of like refining my like process and ways to work more effectively. I operate my supervision company alone. I have people sort of in sort of support roles, but nobody that is like as hands-on with the creative and the music and the organization and the tagging and playlisting as I am. I mean, I sort of own that right now. And, if I could duplicate myself or scale the business, I would put more infrastructure in place, because it's so critical for time management purposes to there's so many features within DISCO that I find a lot of value in, and then others that you've shown me and that I know are like coming in the near future that would be even better, but it's so much time goes into it, getting kind of as granular as you guys allow it to be. But the things that I really focus on are, so I focus on, it's really about like kind of playlisting, and then for client projects, but then also creating sort of more thematic playlists, right? So that if I'm tasked with turning around a creative search in a very short amount of time, then I am able to find, my research more quickly. And going into client playlists and using the breadcrumb trail, it's a really good way for me to just find stuff, or even it's not necessarily ideas that I'm going to sort of capture for the search, but it sparks ideas and gives me, sort of helps me sort of redirect my thinking. And even just sort of like one song could, help me think, okay, I need to go back through these other playlists, or these sort of themes would be applicable for the music search.
Yeah.
Awesome. How do you deal with the, I guess, the volume of incoming music to you? You obviously receive in many different ways and formats. Is there a hierarchy to how you actually kind of deal with that? I guess there's stuff coming for briefs you send out, and just the general blasts.
Yeah. I really love the inbox feature and being able to funnel that music directly to an inbox. So for client projects, if I'm briefing,
why is that helpful? Really fast, that you can funnel it to one inbox. How does that help you?
It's just more streamlined, and so many of the features within Disco save time, and it's just like all those like little split seconds or seconds that take you time to download and upload, and it all adds up. I mean, it's so important to streamline as much as possible, and to think about how you can streamline on your end, but also what would be really helpful on your receiving, your whoever you're pitching to, or if it's your client, or music supervision partner or somebody like that. It's so important. One thing that actually I learned only recently was that I could share channels, and what that does for me is, if I'm working on a project with kind of a bigger scope, and let's say I know for this documentary project that I'm working on, I'm going to be sending quite a lot of playlists over a long period of time. If I'm only sending those individually to the director or the editor, it's very quick. It could very easily get lost. Stuff could get lost, and you'd have to then go and reference those individual sort of emails and links. And I think it's still important to send those, but to also give them the option of like a link to the channel where everything is already like lives in place, and it's sort of in a sort of a hosting page, makes such a huge difference with, teams that aren't maybe as organized as, we are. So it's important to think about who you're collaborating with and how you can make them organized as well.
Awesome. I actually haven't thought much about the supervisor sharing the entire channel for the project is obviously a logical thing to do.
I had never even thought about it, and I'm now know that I just said to the director, please bookmark this link, and just like going forward, I'll send you playlists, but also, I don't know what your workflow is like. I don't know if when I send playlists, you're gonna like, click immediately and go through it as fast as, I would hope for him to do that. So it's just nice that if that link gets buried in other emails, that he could always go back to that bookmark channel.
That's a really
that's a good shout. I've never thought of that from the supervision standpoint either. So, well, that kind of answers my next question, but maybe there's more. But like, are there any other creative ways as a supervisor you've developed in using Disco in like ways that maybe you didn't think were there before? Or, I mean, the
Yeah.
channels thing is it, but is there anything else that comes to
Well,
mind?
we sort of diverged a little bit between you were receiving, how you're dealing with all the incoming music, which I think is probably going where you were going, Katrina.
I'll share. Yeah, I think another thing that I have put in a bit more time into is the contacts and mailing list, and trying to organize my contacts based on relationship and what sort of information I know about their artists and their catalog, so that when I'm briefing out, I kind of already have these email groups sort of organized. So based on, so creating mailing lists based on, are these companies that are available, at all budget ranges? Are these companies that only want to get, receive briefs for, 100K or above? Do they have, how much sort of archival sort of back catalog do they have? Like, can I rely on these companies for music from 50s, 60s, 70s? Or is it all frontline, very kind of current modern music? So just sort of thinking about what types of briefs I get and how I can sort of streamline not just, music that I'm receiving, but even a step before that, how do I get that brief out to the right people?
How do you, say I'm a rights holder and I've got, I think I've got all the music, all the perfect music in the world, what's the best way to help you in outlining really what my strengths are, when I'm presenting music to you or trying to reach out and build a relationship? Are there some sort of really key things that you're like, just go, so I really know what this is about? How would you recommend we do that?
When sort of describing the catalog, or
yeah,
I think some of the things I just sort of mentioned, do you have current music? I think a good introduction to a catalog is just sort of knowing what you think is sort of the strongest aspect of it, or like, I think don't say that you can serve every brief, even though you can. It's like, what is like the one artist or few artists that you feel like I should kind of focus my attention on if I'm not familiar with who you are or the catalog that you represent? Like, just make it really sort of easy and simple for a music supervisor to find like a way in, because we're inundated with emails, and it's really hard. And just, I didn't answer your question earlier, but the best way to sort of contact me is if we don't know each other, it's really a referral from somebody that we know in common or a licensing company. I can pretty much guarantee you that 99% of the time, if it's a cold email, I'm not going to be able to reference it or read through it or even click through it. And there's always some, trust plays a big part in this business. And, I say this a lot, that it's like, you kind of have to be a sort of perfectionist, because, and you have to sort of know who else are sort of like kind of working on that sort of level, because we're dealing with music copyright and we're dealing with things, projects that move really quickly, and we need to make sure that the info is accurate and that the people that we work with and collaborate with can be trusted.
How do people prove trustworthiness to you?
I think it develops over time. It's something that takes time, and you just, I guess, have to sort of just be patient. And like we were saying before, just sending a sampler and just identifying really, this is the best stuff for the stuff that I'm most excited about, or these are the artists that are getting, maybe they haven't, maybe they're not playing big rooms, 1,000-person venues when, live touring was a thing. But they're getting reviewed on Pitchfork, or they're getting reviewed, so, music critics are taking notice, or give me something that like goes beyond the music, like something about their story or how they are relevant to this sort of cultural moment,
Yeah.
some sort of hook.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you find that just even opening a song and looking at metadata, just talking about trust and how you can tell, what can you tell if someone knows what they're doing pretty quickly?
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, if metadata is, if people do take the time to fill in that information, and it's like really just, if you see that level of care and organization put into it, then that's a good indication that they've got their shit together.
Yeah, that's what we tell everybody.
But it's funny though. It's funny because I don't want to sort of knock the majors, but it's usually the indies that really put in that time and care. And it's sometimes when you get sent stuff from the majors, it's like no album artwork, no just no information at all, and so that's when the sort of detective hack goes on. But when indies send music, it's usually a lot of like they want to make it as like turnkey as possible.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh no, someone said hashtag not all majors.
No, I know. So also, I just want to point out, like, the album artwork is so important to me personally, and I don't know, maybe other music supervisors would agree. And personally, I'm not in love with like catalogs that put their own company like logo on tracks. Like, give me the artist's artwork. Like, sometimes like just looking at an artwork gets me interested in a track. Or like,
definitely.
If the artwork had if there was as much thoughtfulness like put into the artwork as there is the music, then that might give me some sort of key like into what this song sounds like.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, another music supervisor chimed in, Pat Buchanan, said artwork is huge for him as well.
Yeah.
So all you folks who don't have artwork, get to designing.
It is a funny. I was just going to make a real quick note on artwork. Just the way the artists will spend a huge amount of time writing music, making music, recording music, and going to town on all of that side. And then often the actual presentation at the end of it all is just sort of like, oh, here you go, like barely any time on the art, or how they're going to write about themselves and that side, which is really like for a lot of people very painful, and then have no interest in that. But I do feel like it's something to really to invest in as an artist, because a book is read by its cover, and we're not always going to hear the music straight away. But if we read something that's really like, oh, that's just sounds like a kind of interesting angle that you've got there, that really helps. And obviously if it looks great.
Yeah, just think about the imagery and the colors, and you don't need to put in a lot of money into it, like license a photo, just something that evokes a sort of a feeling or a story that is similar to the story and emotion that's in the music.
Awesome.
Yep. Someone did just write in and asked if we could show an example of perfect metadata. We have that in a blog post. Tim wrote a really good one about metadata, but we can link it in the follow-up for a recording of this, because we are happy to help walk people through how that should look and work. Well, we went a little over our time, but I'm not mad at it because we enjoyed talking to you. I had another question, but I feel like you already answered it. I just wanted to know if you had any like favorite feature in Disco that like really, really is a game changer for you. I feel like it's probably inboxes and breadcrumb trail. You talked about that, but if there's anything else you feel like sharing with the class, let us know.
it's just very, I don't know, it's very cohesive, and like it's not any one feature. I think it's kind of everything, and the fact that you're not, I mean, yeah, there's just, actually, like I said before, I'm like only really kind of using the sort of basic features, and I know that if I had more time or more people, I would definitely use more of the features. So it's just kind of very cohesive, and the fact that you're constantly sort of developing the product and the platform just makes me feel, you know, that much more sort of attached to it for doing work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the iPhone app is basically is sort of out in beta a little bit at the moment. So everybody get excited about that, because it's also very functional and in your pocket.
Yeah.
Cool.
When we get to go back out in the world again, it'll be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah. You know what? To answer your question about game changing, and it's having everything stored in the cloud. It's that security, like, of not worrying about a hard drive anymore. I know it's been kind of like a while. If you're on a hard drive, like, get off of that, like, immediately. It's just pointless.
It's so risky too.
And just the fact that you can invite teams in and access it from like any device, and it's backed up, and it's just a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Efficiency and effectiveness. It's the name of the game.
Yeah, it's just, you know, music is something that it could be an endless sort of process. You know, you can spend a lot of time, and you really have to sort of think about how you kind of manage that time and use it effectively. And I think this is just one thing that, you know, accomplishes that. You know, some of it has to sort of come from you too. You know, like, I can't, you know, put 20 hours into a search when it really just requires, you know, 10, you know, because you've got to kind of move on and do other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome to hear how you're doing, and tips for folks out there when they're sending music to supervisors. Yeah, thank you again so much.
Yeah. Happy to join. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, everyone, thank you again for joining.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're doing another webinar very soon for more advanced information, and we'll be doing another beginners one, and this is going to be very regular. So stay tuned for our next advanced webinar for deeper.
And we promise to send a recording of this.
Yes.
You will get it soon.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Enjoy your day. Thanks again.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye.